Achuta, Wonga kun bist du. Achuta, Wonga kun bist du. Jedabadawana ni di bobo. Tong nabung siya nunungya. Tong patukas magtalea. Tune fodo. Rananu prata doko shirkasha. Jum na apike.
Whoops.
We itanandayata. Wata yuma wamahuhu nanaktik. Shatung ni patoga. Wanak jedabadawana ni di bobo. Tong nabung siya nununya. Tong patukas magtalea. Runda di hotonga kun hangkabi. Wana kun bez ching palamule. Mucho siyak pakat. Ha! Ha! Here!
Hey, it's one of those star maps, ain't it? Kinda weird finding it in the back of a crate dragon's lair, don't you think?
The star map is an artifact of the dark side. The crate dragon may have been drawn here by its dark power, only to be enslaved by it.
Say, now that we've got the star map, do you think we can leave this planet soon? I've got sand everywhere.
Habe ich jetzt so eine Drachenperle oder nicht?
I have to give you credit. You've led me on quite a chase. But nobody gets away from Calo Nord in the end. You got lucky on Terrace. The Sith attack saved you from a quick and gruesome death. But I promise you, the Sith won't be getting in my way this time. Sorry, I'm not in this for the credits. You're the only ones who've ever gotten away from me. I've got a rep to protect. Let's go, boys. It's showtime.
Der so dämlich. Er ist doch kein Band da. Yes, 2000 Credits.
Query. What do you wish to ask of him, Master? Clarification. We must be more specific, Master. They capture many organics. Translation. Translation. He says that by his very presence, this griff defiles their home and land. He is without any semblance of usefulness to them.
Yep, that would be Griff.
Extrapolation. I would assume we are free to take him. It is doubtful they will even waste the effort to kill him. Perhaps we could do it, Master. Translation. Translation. He says that the captive Jawas are slaves and that they have lived past their usefulness. You may take them if you wish. Protocol. Protocol. Translation. Translation. You have been told that to be considered worthy of hearing the histories, you need to bring him a dragon pearl. Translation. He says the discussion is closed until you fulfill this condition. He thinks you are just making fun of his traditions. Translation. Translation. He is stupefied, Master. He never thought you could return with such an item. Such a thing has not been done in many years. Translation. He will allow you to meet the storyteller, but also gives a warning. If you dare to repeat the histories incorrectly, you will be killed. Translation. The storyteller will be summoned to one of the rooms here in the Enclave. He seems to think this is a great honor for you, Master. Protocol. Translation. Translation.
Igratukaku jijiya, mambego pamuko varubak kubba, hunyarilyo, wangakalaki, igratukaku jijiya. Okumiri, tuba chokuna kuraka kiza punsa. Hunyarilyo, ieta upiso, kinkunya bamuri rachi.
Identifies himself as the storyteller, Master. He has been told of your warrior skills and will speak the history to you. Translation. Translation. There is only one accepted history, passed orally to each successive generation. Translation. A book or datapad can be taken away, cheapening the value of what it contains. To commit it to paper or storage is to remove it from the people. Translation. Translation. You may choose to hear the history, or you may choose not to. Their history is a single entity that cannot be partitioned. Translation. The only exception is in continuing the tales once they have begun. If you leave, when you return, he will continue from where he left off. Translation. Translation. It begins with the ancient times. They were not sand people, for there was no sand. The land was green with life, and they walked without wrappings. Translation. Though the land was beautiful, they lived apart from the land. They built their walls high and saw beyond the horizon. They dared to reach the stars. Translation. There are no words for how long ago this was. It was before the outsiders, before the abduction, before the cities fell, before the builders. Translation. Translation. His arrogant people touched the stars, and this sin drew the attention of the builders. The builders did not touch the stars, they lashed them to millstones. Translation. Great demons of metal stripped the world of its riches, until all that was left was the green of the ground. The great cities were lifted away. Translation. Those that had used the wealth were taken along with it. Transgressors abducted to serve past the sky, seeding the stars with penitent, adaptable slaves. Translation. Translation. There came a time when the builders were also judged for their crimes. After generations, a plague weakened them, and the time of the Great War began. Translation. The builders faltered, and his people realized why they had been punished, so that they understood the crime, and would now strike down the greater offender. Translation. They worked chaos in the machines, so they destroyed themselves. The builders fought back, laying waste to the green that had been misused with fire from above. Translation. Soil became glass, grinding to sand, but the fight was long planned, and his people were safe. Deep in cave homes carved from valley wall, they were free. Translation. Editing, if I may, Master. This section of his tale details several millennia of the long walk. their nomadic wanderings as they accept their identity in a desert world? Rather than strain my circuits on his dialect, might we just assume there was much fighting over who has the biggest bantha and move on to more recent things? Translation. Translation. The tribes spread far, distant from each other, but all are sand people and all cherish the land that remained. The sand would not be misused. Translation. Then machines fell from the stars again, outsiders like you that brazenly walked apart from the land. And greater still was the insult to come. Translation. These outsiders reminded them of their past transgression, of the time when they too walked apart from land. The outsiders, your kind, looked like their ancient abducted. Translation. So it is to the current sons that the Sand People hate all outsiders and give them no footing. You come again, time after time, adaptable slaves to the machine. Editing. The last 1,000 years are full of conflicts with different groups of attempted planetary settlers, all of whom are poorly described, long dead, and likely untraceable. I believe I have truncated it down to the usable bits in what was already said. I hope it is enough, Master. Cautionary. I should warn you, Master, that any questioning of their interpretation may be seen as trying to change the meaning of what was said. Clarification. They may consider this to be speaking the words in error, a blasphemy they would attempt to kill you for. Clarification. I believe they were occupied by this technologically superior species for a substantial period. Stripping an entire planet of usable resources would have taken generations. Translation. Translation. He has no number. He claims that those that were taken were examples of the worst of his kind, arrogant and uncaring of the land. Doubtful. Master, this is just another distortion due to their demonization of the builders. It's like claiming an aspect of his people were taken, not actual individuals. Clearly, history has colored his view. Of course, only the inferior meatbags were taken. The remaining were his ancestors, after all, and must have been special. Cautionary. Clarification. It would appear that they once had a thriving technologically advanced society, but were wiped out by a much more sophisticated alien species. Negative. I am no library, but since there is no Republic record of this planet having sentient life before Zerka colonization, I doubt you will find such evidence. Translation. Translation. He only understands the builders as an iconic force meant to test the resolve of his people. He is not making sense, Master. Clarification. They claim their stories are repeated unchanged, but they have demonized these builders. In their minds, they wreaked such havoc they could not possibly be flesh and blood. Cautionary. Master, this line of questioning may be interpreted as attempting to change the story. He may react poorly. Doubting. I don't believe he can, Master. Even if their stories are exact and unchanged, it is likely they were first told thousands of years after these events occurred. This has become very much like a creation myth for his people. There is no date. It simply was. Caution. Clarification. They appear to hate humanity with a passion only rivaled by their hatred of the builders. For some reason, you resemble what they once were. Perhaps there is a lingering fear that you are their tainted selves returning from exile among the stars. Cautionary. Master, if you mean to suggest that humanity is ancestrally linked to ancient Tatooine, you will strain his belief system to its pitiful meatbag maximum. Obedient. I will ask what... Translation. Translation. He says that you dare not question the accuracy of his information. The stories are learned perfectly by each successive storyteller. Translation. In fact, they aren't allowed to speak the stories aloud unless they are exact. Any error is considered a blasphemy punishable by death. Criticism. It seems inefficient to me, Master. A score of apprentice storytellers would be slaughtered each generation. What if the elder died before completing the teachings? Translation. Translation. Apprentices are trained from birth. Very few speak the words in error. Storytellers are most often lost in battle between tribes. Translation. Any tribe that loses its storyteller is obviously unworthy of existing. They lose their connection to history and destroy themselves with infighting soon after. Translation. Translation. Now that you have heard the whole of the history, you may select a piece of it to hear again. Obedient. Translation. Translation. We are free to leave.